In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 4 things the top 1% do very differently from everybody else. So if you want to achieve a higher level of success in your personal life and business, watch this. My name is Yuri Hakim. I'm a New York Times bestselling author, former professional soccer player, and the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. Over the past 20 years, I've been helping thousands of health entrepreneurs build 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses online. And I've noticed some patterns, not just working with entrepreneurs, but also working with very high-level athletes back in the day when I was working as a strength and conditioning coach, and obviously from my days in pro soccer. Over the years, having worked with tens of thousands of people personally, patterns emerge over and over and over again. And today I'm going to share the 4 big ones you want to keep an eye on if you want to be part of the 1% who crushes their goals, be it personally or in business. Now, first one here is the big one, is that a lot of amateurs are always looking for what's new. Successful people master what's true. And one of the easiest tells that I can, get a sense of where someone's at in their life or in their business is they say things like, "Oh, I know that already." I'm like, dude, I don't care if you know it already. If you're not doing it, it doesn't matter. So when you look at pros in any aspect of life, number one, they understand that it's not about like the newest, latest, shiny object. They're looking at, how do I master the fundamentals? They don't say, I know that already. They say, how well am I mastering this? How well am I doing this? Yes, we all know that walking is important. Cool. But knowledge and implementation are 2 different things. I'll give you an example. So in sports, in soccer, I'll just use this as an example. When I look at kids who are in their teens, a lot of them get really excited by fancy moves, bicycle kicks, all sorts of stuff that they would never do in a game. Meanwhile, if you look at the training session of the highest level teams, the Barcelonas, the Juventus, the Bayern Munichs, they all do very simple, basic things. They do the same things that 10-year-old kids do in their practice. They've just done it tens of thousands more times, and they're able to execute at a faster and a higher level. And that's why they're at that level and everyone else is not. Everyone else is trying to do the latest fancy trick, while the pros, the masters, are essentially dialing the fundamentals. In business, how I see this show up is someone comes into our world and says, "Oh yeah, I have a lot of this stuff in place," right? "I know a lot of this stuff." I'm like, dude, how are you only making 5 to 10K per month then? We have clients who also come in who also know this stuff. And then with these small improvements by mastering the fundamentals, they're making 100,000, 500,000, 700,000 a month. They're doing the same things as you, but how are they making that much more money in the service of other people? Because the thing a lot of amateurs don't realize is that they think that when you understand something, you've mastered it. No. That's not how this works. Let's look at the example of messaging or copywriting, communication. You could say, yeah, I understand communication. Cool. There's a very different level to communication from the basic to masterful. Tonality, intonation, inflection, being able to sit, pause, stay in the pocket and have difficult conversations, right? These are all little improvements on a fundamental skill that a lot of amateurs might say they have a master around. But here's the thing. You can say whatever you want. People can say whatever they want. But the truth is you can't hide from the truth. If you know something, let's say if you know what to do for health and wellness, but you're overweight, you don't know anything. If you know what to do in your business, but you're not where you want to be in your business, then you're simply not doing it. And that's the fundamental difference between those who succeed at the highest level is they're very humble, they're very coachable, and they realize the more they learn, the more they realize they don't know. And it's usually the people who know the most who make the least. It's usually the people who have all the answers who end up having nothing at all. So don't be like those people. If you want to join the 1% in any aspect of life, you have to stay humble and you have to recognize that you might have a fundamental understanding of something, but there are so many layers to mastering that. And it's not about jumping on the newest thing. It's about mastering the truest thing. Second big thing that separates the 1% from everyone else is they understand that indecision is a silent tax. What I'm talking about here is that they execute with a level of speed that scares other people. They make fast decisions. A lot of people operate life, they walk through life and they procrastinate forever. They want to have all their ducks in a row. They want to have all the information to increase their amount of certainty that they have around something before they leap in. Unfortunately, when that happens, they've already missed the boat. So what successful people do very, very, very differently than everyone else is they simply act quickly. This is probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed between high performers in pretty much every aspect of life. And again, I'll use the example of soccer because that's obviously my background, but it applies to any sport. When you look at different divisions, right? So if you look at a specific league like the English Premier League, right? There's many, many divisions underneath that. And then the main difference between the 7th division, 6th division, 5th division, et cetera, all the way up to the Premier League is the speed of play. The reason the speed of play increases the higher up you go is the speed of decision-making of these players, right? Knowing what to do before you receive a pass. And the same thing happens in business. The ability to make a decision quickly allows you to jump on opportunities that other people simply miss out on. Most successful entrepreneurs that do well in business understand that I'll just make the decision and then I will make it right. I will commit first, then I'll figure everything else out as you go. Because in case you haven't realized, like the world is kind of uncertain. Life is uncertain. Water's wet, fire's hot. Life is uncertain. And if you're a business owner looking for certainty, you're not going to do well in business. I'm sorry. You might as well just go make lattes at Starbucks. Work for someone else who's willing to take on the risk, who's willing to take on uncertainty and move through it. When we bought our house or bought the land to build our house in Mexico, we bought it on Zoom during COVID, sight unseen. We hadn't even walked the plot of land. But we had been to that neck of the woods many times, not exactly where we were building, but we knew, my wife and I knew exactly that this made sense based on limited information that we had. We didn't know all the information, but we said, this is the plot. We're going to take it and we're going to figure it out. And that's exactly what happens. And then we ended up building our dream house on the Pacific Ocean. Meanwhile, a lot of other people in conversations with them over time who are looking to build in that area, they missed out on some of the best lots because they took too long to make a decision. So the reality is like nothing happens until a transaction's made. So if you think of the world of business, right, the very fact that you don't have all the information, you're not ready to invest in something, sometimes is the best reason to invest in that thing. Because until you actually put money on the line, you're not fully committed. But as soon as you do, you're all in and you will figure it out. Like if it's $5, no big deal, who cares? But if you invest $5,000, $10,000, $500,000, whatever the sum of money might be, that is a stretch for you, what is the likelihood that you're just going to piss that away? Pretty low. So I'm a big believer in acting before you're ready because you're acting before you're ready and you're putting yourself into a bit of a hole, metaphorically speaking, you are forced to figure things out. Meanwhile, everyone else is sitting on the sidelines and they're like, oh, like you do it first and you let us know how it goes and I'm just going to wait here and see how it all pans out. And then by that time, they've already missed the boat and they're screwed and you're light years ahead. So speed. Money loves speed. Poverty loves indecision. The longer you wait, the longer you suffer. And remember, every decision you make is reversible. Like there's really very few decisions in this world that are irreversible, right? Like you can even change gender now, apparently. So that's like, I mean, whatever you do, make a decision. It's going to be fine, right? You'll figure it out. And worst case, you can always just go back. It's going to be fine. But if you want to join the 1%, it's time to make decisions a lot faster. And if you even think about this from the position of wealth accumulation and compounding interest, we know that in order to accumulate the most amount of wealth, one of the number one predictors is how early you start. So if you start saving and investing money at 20 versus 50, you will accumulate literally hundreds of billions of dollars, depending on the amount of money you're investing, obviously, over that time, just because you started earlier. The world and life rewards speed, getting going. Listen to yourself. Don't worry about the fear. And as the famous saying goes, feel the fear, do it anyways. You're going to be totally fine. Third big difference between the 1% and everyone else is successful people are extremely clear about what they want. So when I'm talking to people in the DMs or email or, in passing, and I ask them like, hey, what's the vision for the business over the next year? And they're like, oh, I really haven't thought about that. Dude, I know exactly how your business is doing. It's not doing shit because you haven't even taken the time to articulate your vision. Whereas successful people, they know exactly where they want to go. Now, obviously, you don't know exactly what's going to happen over the next year, but they've taken the time to visualize it, to map it out, to write it down, to think it through, because the clearer you are, the faster you'll go. When you have no clarity, it's like driving through fog. Like, you're not going to go fast, but when you have clarity, it's like driving on an open road, clear skies into the horizon. You can go as fast as you want. I mean, within the speed limit, of course. So successful people are very, very clear on where they want to go. How, like, it doesn't matter about how they get there. They're not necessarily sure how they're going to get there all the time, but they have a pretty clear understanding of exactly what the target looks like. Right? The 1% are very clear. They're very stubborn on the vision, but they're flexible in how they get there. Because listen, I think we all know technology changes exponentially every 18 months, called Moore's Law. There are things I didn't even think about ChatGPT 3 years ago. That wasn't even in my ecosystem. Now it's something that we use every single day. And just imagine what's going to happen in the next year or 2 years. We can't even think of those new innovations. So to worry about how we're going to get somewhere is not really the right question for us to ask as leaders. We want to be focusing on what do we want and why do we want it. That's it. What and why, what and why, what and why. That's it. The how will figure itself out. But if you're not clear on what it is you want, you've already lost the game before you started. And so what I've noticed is very successful people know exactly what they want. They're clear on the destination. I think part of the reason I was able to play soccer professionally for a number of years was that I was very clear about what I wanted when I was 10 years old. I knew I wanted to play pro soccer. I had that vision in my mind. It was in my DNA for like a whole decade. And I committed myself. I trained. I put myself in situations to get better because I had that obsessive clarity about where I wanted to go. So for you, for whatever it is you're trying to achieve in your life, write it down. Take out a pen, get out an index card, get out a notebook, and every single day write down exactly what you want. And if you're not super clear on it, the very fact that you're writing it down consistently will help you get more clear. And the clearer you are, the faster you'll go. Final thing I've noticed, number 4, about what the 1% do differently is they simply live at higher standards and they tolerate less garbage, period. Right? So in life, you don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. So when I was in my 20s, I had this goal of becoming a millionaire by 30. And then I got to 30 and I was still set on the same goal. I wasn't there yet. And that's because I was tolerating not being there, not even close. My first 3 years in business online, starting from about, my late 20s to early 30s, I was like dead broke. I'm talking about poverty line income for way too long. And at some level, I was okay with that. Because if I wasn't okay with it, then I would have done something differently, but I didn't. So if I'm just being honest, it's like, well, you get what you tolerate in life. So if someone's making $1 million a day, then that's what they tolerate. If someone's making $1 million in their lifetime, that's what they tolerate. That's what they believe that they're good enough for. I've shared this story before, but I'll share it again because I think it's very valid. Is I was on a flight from New York to Toronto. This is about 11 or 12 years ago. And I happened to run into one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach. And we're on the same flight. I wasn't flying business class at the time. And I asked him, I'm like, you take like a 1-hour flight, you fly business class? Really? He's like, it's not about the price. It's about the standard. And I was like, what? Never even thought about that. He just operated in a different level and a different way of thinking that I even thought was possible. And he planted the seed in my mind. I'm like, wow, I never thought of it like that. He also had some philosophies around how he lived his life at home. So he, in his home, never did anything that he wouldn't do at a Four Seasons hotel. Didn't do his dishes, didn't do his cooking, didn't clean the house. Why would he? That was just the standard he set for himself. Meanwhile, other people think they have to do all that stuff for whatever reason, which is if they want to, cool. But I'm sharing this because everything you have in life is a direct reflection of what you've tolerated, what you feel you are deserving of. So if you simply look around your physical surroundings, you look in your bank account, you look at your body, you look at just the visible world around you. That is your mirror to let you know exactly what your standard is, period. There is no other barometer other than that. Like if you have 5 yachts as an example, and you're like some Saudi prince who's a decabillionaire, that's because you believe that that's just the way things are for you. That's your standard. Versus someone else would be like, rich people are greedy, they're filthy rich, they're bad, whatever. Well, cool. That's not a very empowering belief system that's going to help you get where you want to go. And therefore, you're going to tolerate a much lower standard of living for whatever reason, based on the conditioning, based on your belief system, whatever it might be. So in order to raise your standards, I'm going to give you a couple ideas here. So number one is put yourself in environments that naturally raise your standards. So part of the reason why I invite some of our clients to my Casa Yuri, my house in Mexico, is to expand their belief system and to raise their standards. It's a 20,000 square foot villa built on a cliff over the Pacific Ocean with panoramic views, sunrise to sunset. It's one of the nicest properties in the Western Hemisphere, as I've been told. And the reason I want to bring our clients to this house is because it puts them in an environment where it's a 6-star experience. And when you go from that to staying in some shitty Airbnb, all of a sudden you're like, fuck this jazz. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to create whatever I need to create in my life to be in this type of environment, if that's important to you. Right. And it's not to say that like you're a better person for staying in nicer environments, but it's like, well, if you had the choice, why would you stay in a shittier environment? Because it's the standard you set for yourself, period. Why would someone go to eat McDonald's hamburgers when they could go have a better burger somewhere else? Well, yeah, like they're less expensive. Okay, fine. But like if you want a grass-fed better burger, there's other places you can get that. And it's just a matter of what we settle for in life. So number one is put yourself in environments that raise your standards. Take that cool car for a test drive, walk through a better neighborhood. These are some of the things I've shared on this channel before that have changed my life in a massive way. Put yourself in rooms with other successful people and model how they think and operate. When you have a conversation with someone that says, it's not about the price, it's about the standard, it shifts the way you look at the world, right? When you put yourself in environments where you are the small fish, man, you just start to look at what's possible. That's the number one thing you can do to increase your standards. The power of positive peer pressure. I don't think a lot of people really give this enough credit. A lot of people talk about like comparison as the thief of joy. I understand that and I agree with that. But at the same time, you become a reflection of your environment. I can promise you this. If you are unsuccessful financially, I guarantee you that the 5 people you spend the most time with are the same. If you're overweight, out of shape, I can tell you who your friends are. I don't even have to see them. And I know that sounds judgmental. Call it what it is. It's called pattern recognition. We become a reflection of our environment. If you want to raise your standards, you put yourself in better environments, period. Second thing, stop tolerating shit. Stop tolerating shit that you know is not good for you. People pleasing, having no boundaries. I don't know what that is for you, but I would encourage you at the end of this video is to write down one thing you know you are tolerating that absolutely robs your soul. It just eats away at your soul. And that might be, I don't know, saying yes to things you don't want to do. That might be whatever it is for you, okay? Like you can figure that out. Take a pen out and take a little piece of paper and just jot down, I will stop tolerating this. Whatever that is. Not working out enough, eating like shit, being out of shape, not having enough money in your bank. I don't know, right? Whatever that is, you have to get disgusted. You can't be just like, it's not that bad. It's horrible. It's horrible. You see, we go through different aspects of our life where we experience discomfort and pain, right? Things are not as good as we want them to be, right? I see this a lot with health because, we help health practitioners and I see a lot of the conversations they have with the people they serve and the people they talk to are like, yeah, I've had like type 2 diabetes for 10 years, or I've had migraines every other day for 20 years. And these people normalize these conditions. They're not normal. In no way, shape, or form are they even natural. Yet the human brain normalizes this so that we don't go crazy and jump off a cliff. We wouldn't be able to live with ourselves. But here's the thing is I want you to get very uncomfortable. I want you to be very uncomfortable. I want you to look in the mirror. I want you to look at your bank account and I want you to get visibly and viscerally disturbed because if you don't, you'll never change. And that's just because you're human. We're all the same. We have to be grateful for what we have and what we've accomplished. I understand that. But if you live in gratitude, and there's a fine line between gratitude and complacency. This is the hard, interesting, energetic piece of being a high performer, is that it's never enough, but you have to be grateful. How do you keep striving for more? And I'm not talking about more material necessarily, but more growth. How do you strive for more growth for you personally, perhaps? And then your business and other stuff reflects that, while also being very grateful for what you've achieved. It's an interesting balance, but I'll tell you this, if you do not find ways to get uncomfortable with what you're going through right now, it is going to be very hard to change, especially as you keep climbing the mountain of success. When I say success, I'm not just talking about financial, okay? You'll understand that the fitter you get, the harder it is. Like what's the next level, right? What's the next level once you've got 6-pack abs and you're ripped in 10% body fat? Like there's only a certain level you go to, right? But how do you maintain that consistency in business? There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow your business every single day, every single month, every single year. It doesn't mean you're greedy. It just means maybe you value growth, because if you're not growing, you're dying. When you reach the summit of one mountain, there's only one way to go, and it's down until you set the sight for another mountain. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the human experience of, it's like why we're here to grow and learn. But if you don't get uncomfortable in your current situation, you're not going to have enough juice to want to change it. And that basically means you're tolerating whatever that standard is. And if you're fine there, cool. But I don't think you're watching this because you're fine. You want to be fantastic. So these are the 4 big things I've noticed between the top 1% and everyone else. If they've resonated with you, let me know which one of these in the comments has really kind of struck a chord for you. And if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because I've got hundreds of other videos to help you crush it in business and in life. And if you're a health professional and you want to see exactly how we help health professionals grow their businesses online, you can check out this video right here.